Hey, Grand Ascension family. It's me, Carolyn Denise, better known as Nisi, back to do another video. And before we get started, I wanted to wish all of my mothers out there, if you partake in the worldly things, then of course, today is Mother's Day. And I wanted to just wish you all a very safe and relaxing day of rest. Right. All right. I want to get into reading the Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls Part 2. Okay. Yesterday, I uploaded 1 through 4, and I'm going to read chapters 5 and possibly 6. Okay. And then I think, I don't know, I may set my camera up at some point and let you see the pages as I'm reading. That may be a better way to do it. I know some people are very visual people and might not want to see me on camera. So I just wanted to read this to you. So let's just get into it. Okay. Not a lot of chit chat this morning. Incidentally, before I get started, also, I wanted to just give a little word of advice, and I'm speaking more to myself than you all. I had an incident yesterday where I had to come out of pocket for an unexpected expense, and luckily I had the means to get it replaced. And so moving forward, it's very important for you all to save, right? I am attempting to get out of credit card debt again. And so I'm working on getting my credit score to a certain point again, as it was 3 years ago. And I just want to tell you guys that it's very important for you guys to save something, set something aside for a rainy day. You never know when you may need it. And it's better to have it and not need it than need it to not have it. I had a means to get it repaired, so I'm good. But the fact is, I could do better, and I am attempting to do better, and you're seeing the change real time on camera, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that. All right, and then also, one last point, it's the third point I want to make. When you order something, make sure you thoroughly inspect it and don't leave it sitting on your desk for over 60 days and then find out it's cracked. I'm just telling you, I've been to the point where I've been ordering a lot of things in the last few months, and now I've tapered off dramatically. I made another purchase a couple of days ago, and my husband said it was fine for me to get it. And so we sat down, we looked at our finances, and we said, okay, fine, let's do it. So this is going to be something that's going to encourage and motivate me and help me. Also, I finally invested in a small Fitbit. I am attempting to make some lifestyle changes, and I am doing that. And so, I'm tracking myself and monitoring myself, and I'm attempting to do some things that I've done previously, but in a different way, right? It's a point of me. I've always struggled with my weight, and I can get really small and then I get really big and I'm like a yo-yo. I don't have any consistency, and I do not want to use any synthetic or pharmaceutical drugs to do it. I want to do natural nutraceuticals and natural means by eating and exercising. And so when you do that, it takes a lot. It does take longer to accomplish, but I am determined not to be one of those people who takes a GLP-1 drug and then has to stay on it for maintenance and then find out later on that it causes cancer, because it does. If you read the studies, you'll understand that some of those medications are linked to serious illnesses down the road. When you're attempting to make lifestyle changes and use the drug to lose weight, there are side effects to that drug, and there's long-term complications that people are not speaking about. You want instant results, yeah, you'll get slim, but what is it going to cost you later on in life? That's my point. So I'm just simply saying, I'm speaking to you as I'm speaking to myself, right? All right, let's get into chapter 5, discovering the Great Crater City. This will be the 4th time that I've gone through this change of where I'm going to lose weight and get down. And the thing is, I need to maintain it. See, so I have a habit of losing the weight and then gaining it back plus some. Right. And it has been because, and I will be honest with you, and I'm looking up to recount the times that I've done this. And it's been because I've used pharmaceuticals, right? It's not because I did it the way that I'm doing it now, which is a different way. And so this is a struggle for me. So you guys just send me some good energy, because I know I've got this. I can do it. I don't need drugs to do it, right? I can do it naturally and put my mind to it, right? All right, let's get into chapter 5, discovering the Great Crater City. All right, it says, another woman entered, greeting me strangely with her hand. Although I tried to communicate with her, she simply shook her head and raised her right hand to signal no. Riz then explained to me that she had no voice and therefore could not communicate with me in that way. Wow. I picked up a small book, and on the first page, there was a detailed map of what I assumed were the famous lands called Laurentia. Although the entire book was written in an indecipherable language, Riz and the other woman started looking at each other intently, and they seemed to be communicating in some way. I went back outside with the book I had taken, heading towards Hatton with the intention of speaking to him about it. But before I could reach him, a long and strange sound came from the vessel as it was announcing our arrival. When I looked towards the north, cliffs and mountains covered in vegetation with shades of violet and green appeared. Wow, I can only imagine how beautiful that is. Riz walked behind me and softly said, "Look, Drumson, how beautiful our lands look. Welcome to Laurentia." And this is what he is showing in the book as artwork. Okay, look at the city. And then he is showing Riz as this person here. Look at her face. Very slim contours, high cheekbones, and large eyes, right? As the entire crew disembarked, Hatton escorted me down until I finally set a foot on land once again. It felt like an eternity had passed, and there I was, standing on lands the few seemed to have ever set foot on before, trying to understand even a little of everything I was experiencing. Lands and an entire unknown civilization were emerging before my eyes. As soon as we disembarked, we all began walking along dirt and sand paths with tropical jungle on either side seemingly to welcome us. There was no one around, but after walking about 200 steps, a large city of tower-like buildings with metal colors emerged, flourishing within a kind of giant crater in the ground itself. It was like a great advanced city sunken into the ground and surrounded by mountains, as if it had been built to hide itself. But from whom or from what? I could even see thousands and thousands of these beings gathered, carrying out tasks in many areas. Others were climbing up to the highest parts, repairing pathways. Children seemed to run around the edges of the sandy roads. There was an entire unknown civilization there. Riz and Hatton escorted me, telling me to follow them, when continued descending until we reached the floor of the sunken city. But now, using dark-colored platforms they used as elevators. A colossal statue immediately caught my attention, standing out with insignias I didn't recognize. This statue, in addition to being prominently placed in a central part of the great city, also had certain glow under the reddish sun that illuminated. Sounds beautiful. This is a picture I showed you in the beginning. But I must also admit that I felt it wasn't the right moment to ask questions, at least not yet. Therefore, I simply followed the others, though I was so astonished that I could barely walk. So, and this is what he saw, I guess is what, when he entered into this crater, the crater city. I mean, it sounds beautiful. And I know these places do exist. It's not a belief or a lack of knowledge and knowing. It's like memory recall. Does that make sense? Chapter 6, the extraterrestrial colonization. Hatton and Riz took me to a safe place, right? According to them, because they mentioned that soon a mist would fall and soak the entire city. And although it wasn't dangerous, they preferred to avoid it. They didn't give me any further information at the time, and I simply followed orders. When entered a peculiar tower shaped like a polished stone. We entered a peculiar tower shaped like a polished stone. Inside there was a very large and silent hall that seemed to be made of marble, with its walls fully illuminated from within. There they had left me, while Hatton quickly left to carry out other tasks. Tasks he referred to as the logistical, though I couldn't understand exactly what they were. Riz stayed with me once again. Sitting in the luminous room, I thought it would be the good time to ask her more about these lands and how long they had been settled here. Riz then replied as follows: We have been here in these lands for a very long time. Our beginning goes as far back in your timeline that you would not fully understand. It goes so far back in your timeline that you wouldn't fully understand, especially because the timeline of your continents that you know has also been manipulated, just like all the history you've been told since you were a child. This is why we're going to have this discussion at some point about this book. Shout out to Chief Red Wolf. All right. So then he says, I nodded my head, trying to grasp something of what Riz was telling me, perhaps not believing it, or perhaps simply absorbed by her words, a bit of both. Riz then continued, when you were born and grow up in your land, you only manage to know a small percentage of the truth. The vast majority is garbage meant to be discarded. I'm sorry if I sound so blunt, but all of that only serves to confuse you even more until you end up knowing why you really lived, or you believe your purpose in life is simply the acquisition of external objects or the pursuit of recognition for something empty. Do I need to read that one more time? When you are born and grow up in your land, you only manage to know a small percentage of the truth. The vast majority is garbage meant to be discarded. I'm sorry if I sound so blunt, but all of that only serves to confuse you even more until you end up not knowing why you really lived, or you believe your purpose in life is simply the acquisition of external objects or the pursuit of recognition for something empty. You can't even imagine the future there if it wasn't for the ancestrals. You will meet them very soon. But as I was saying, life there passes very quickly due to the manipulation of the system over the timeline and the disease implanted in the new humanity since birth. A disease they call themselves placed within you. By the time you realize it, you are most likely already disembodied, existing only as energy behind Antarctica. Wait, slow down. I have thousands of questions, I said, now speaking with a bit more confidence. You mentioned the new humanity. What do you mean by this? And also, what do you mean about transforming it into energy and traveling behind Antarctica? When I say the new humanity, I am referring to those humans born within what you know as Earth. After the last reset, which occurred according to your timeline in 1728. When I speak of a reset, I mean that all of humanity perished in a great catastrophe or war. In this case, unfortunately, both occurred. The lands where you come from are controlled by a parasitic invader called the Custodian and another called the Anunnaki. But behind both, there are also beings from Nibiru. The Custodians and the Anunnaki use the beings from Orion as the first line of order, or foot soldiers, so to speak. They manipulated your lands after conquering them a long, long time ago, back when the first humanity still existed, the Hyperboreans. That humanity fought for its freedom from the very beginning, including during the conquest, with people like JB, who tried to escape from lands located south of where we are now, reaching these coasts to continue fighting against the yoke imposed in those times. Back then, humanity had not yet suffered as much manipulation as it has now, and they had not yet been able to be relocated to the lands you know, okay? And, let me read that again. Back then, humanity had not yet suffered as much manipulation as it has now, and they had not yet been relocated to the lands you know. Are you telling me we are conquered by extraterrestrials? Yes. 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 You could say it that way so you can understand. And what do you mean about energy at the end of our lives? You, as pure humanity, even though manipulated, uh, and still pure and can carry what we call the nashahima within you, the energy, all right, the spark. You may also hear it referred to as the source. It is what exists behind your flesh, and it is your pure, true essence. I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back row. It is your pure, true essence. It is you. This body is just a vessel. That's it. The problem is that during the life you live there, the parasites confuse humans so much that they only know a few scattered texts about reality and the power that lies within each of you. For that reason, dear Drumson, the confusion of seeing yourself as a physical body and having a name ties you to the flesh, and that fear of transcending causes you to return. That is why your Namashi ends up waiting behind the ice walls, longing for your loved ones or the return to a physical body. But I believe this is too much information for you today. No, it ain't. She need to keep talking. I was stunned, so much so that my jaw suddenly dropped slightly, leaving my mouth half open as I tried to process all of this at once. Yeah, he gave him the stare. Sidebar, or what we call the side look. Riz then told me that the visitor that they were expecting had just arrived, and a man approached me, extending his hand to greet me politely. Yeah. That is so much truth on so many levels. But you got to remember, these people are a mixture, right? And that's what they said. Let me read this last chapter. We're at 16 minutes, all right? So it says, Chapter 7, The Encounter with Venus, or Ventus, the ancient being from the lands of Anak. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Tyler. It is an honor to greet you. I am Zakenish. Like myself, spoke this man, who wore a hat and a peculiar overcoat in perfect English. And this is the picture he has right here. All right. Zakanish, I asked once again, quite confused, while our hands collapsed in a peaceful handshake. At that moment, Riz interrupted to explain that the term Zakanish meant something like pure human. Okay. And she told me, and she told the other man that it was exactly what she had been trying to explain to me just seconds earlier. The difference between them and the Magri. Okay. So, and it's not derogatory for any extraterrestrials who might come across this later on. What would you say? They're half and half, I guess. I don't want to say half breeds, but they're a mixture of human and Venusian, right? A Venetian, I guess. And it says, here they call me Ventus. He finally introduced himself. Since my real name, Gabriel de Arujo, is far too long, and for your information, I come from the same lands as you, but that is much longer story that one day, when there's time, I will tell you in detail. What's more important now is that you recover as quickly as possible. Hatton told me about your experience in the frozen waters. I can only imagine how difficult it must have been to cross all the way here and without your crew. I couldn't do anything but lower my gaze, deeply saddened and still very affected by what has happened. Don't worry, Tyler. Everything is going to get better for you now. You'll see. You've entered a world completely different from the one you weren't even aware of, Ventus said. What country are you from, Mr. Ventus? I asked. I come from the lands to the south of here, known in different ways, but you could say your people will one day know them as the lands of Anak. From the giant Anak? I asked, stunned. Have you read about it? Riz and Ventura asked, almost in unison. Yeah, I have. Of course, as a Lutheran Christian, in the ancient text, they speak of the sons of Anak, the Anakim. Then it will be easier for you to understand this part about the Anakim giants. They also lived in lands beyond the ice walls you recently crossed. In fact, I lived among them for a long time. I only recently arrived in these lands to meet the group of ancestral humans that also live here. Riz, you have already told him about the ancestrals, haven't you? I turned to search for Riz's face, waiting for her to answer. Riz then said that she had indeed told me about the last reset and the war and the catastrophe that ended up wiping out most of humanity inside the lands here where we are, in Earth, is what they want to call it. They got people thinking we're spinning through space at 1,000 miles an hour on a globe. And that's not even the truth. That's farthest from the truth. It says, then Ventus said that I was already on the path of learning and I was progressing very quickly. He enthusiastically congratulated me and shook my hand again. He then patted me on my shoulder empathetically and told me that I should feel happy for having found those lands, that humanity had unknowingly fought a very long time to find them, and that I had, by fortune, managed to cross and arrive here. I don't think it was fortune. I think it was planned to be that way. I don't think anything's by accident. I'm just going to put it that way. Because that's the way Source works. That's the way the universal consciousness works. He also told me that he understood my pain and all the confusion I might be feeling about my new surroundings, and my life had now changed forever, and that soon I would understand everything. Well, let's get to it. He added that I had to be patient while waiting, and that thousands of new doors would open in my mind, like a path leading to a truth that had been kept hidden from the new humanity. Risden interrupted, saying that after the mist had passed, she would take me to rest. Ventus added that it was already time as the mist had cleared, and so they escorted me along one of the white towers, walking along paths lined with small yellow lights. We crossed a picturesque path under what seemed to be night, although it wasn't entirely dark as we know it, and there were no stars in the skies or celestial domes. Ventus showed me the place, which was incredibly well lit, and it also seemed to be made from a single solid piece. The bed was similar to the one on the vessel, a rhomboid in shape, but larger and violet in color. After a few brief words, I was left alone in the circular room trying to sleep, although it would not be easy at all. Too many things had happened in just a single day. I'm going to show you this bed. Now watch and look. Take a screenshot if you have to. Look. Y'all see it hovering? Look at that. I don't know if I could sleep on that. The light. Maybe when you get on it, it darkens. It dims. But in order for you to get on the bed or to climb up into the bed, it's lights. So I would just assume that it probably cut off. All right. We are at 22 minutes. Let me see how long chapter 8 is. Chapter 8 is extremely long. Oh, it's very, very long. So I'm going to cut it here. We are at 23 minutes. I don't want to tire you guys out. I will come back and read chapter 8. It's probably about 7 pages by itself. And so when I return, I'll read chapter 8 and for sure chapter 9, because that's a short one. And then chapter 10. All right. So let me flag this. I appreciate you guys taking the time out to join me. I hope this has been intriguing and beneficial. Take your mind off some things and just sit back, push play, and let me read to you. Again, when I come back, I'm going to read chapters 8, 9, and 10. And we're going to continue to deep dive into this book. I know that someone had made a comment on one of my videos a while ago that they had not seen the chapters of the other books that I was reading. I do have them over on my Facebook page, but I post so much information. I will make an attempt to go out there and look for those videos and then try to retag them or rename them in the subject heading over here on YouTube so you can get a full picture of what we're doing. So this is The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls, part 2. All right. And when I return, we'll be getting into the other chapters 8, 9, and 10. I hope you guys have an amazing Sunday. And remember what I always say, you be the change that you want to see all around this Earth Dome, because it's up to you and I to make a positive change. And look at my cup. You got this. Everyday dose. I'll talk to you guys soon.